I will try with very short time because we don't want really to steal a lot of time for the discussion, because this is why we are here and the brainstorming. So I will try to give a very quick background of why. Mainly I will only try to explain why I think that refugees in West Bank are right now ready for such projects that we are proposing. I will not explain more than this in that particular section. Actually, I'm heading a department called Camp Improvement Program, and it seems to be a very normal name, but it's not when it comes to refugee camps, because then what's the meaning of improvement and what that might mean for refugees, especially looking at 60 years of exile of refugees, and this was their main struggle, how they would live in dignity, but maintaining their image as refugees, because the world has very clear image of what refugee might look like, and normally the world would look like at refugees as the poor people mainly without shelters, without enough food to eat, and this is how the world could relate to refugees and support them and thinking about helping them. While after 60 years of exile, of course, Palestinian refugees, and in particular way also in the West Bank, they achieved a lot. They managed to build their homes, they managed to build their lives, they managed to build many things, but still very much into this idea of how they would maintain the image of the refugees. And I will return back for 1 second to the 60s and the late 50s, when the refugees began in Lebanon in particular way, described by Ilyas Khouri, to build their homes, and they built the 4 walls. And when they arrived to build the roof, they made a very big assembly among refugees, and they were asking themselves if it is the right strategy to build the roof or not, because building the roof might mean also settling in Lebanon, and they want to return back home. So their contradiction and their struggle was for the last 60 years how to combine the struggle of returning back home with a dignified life, with a life where they could improve their life. And actually, the word improvement itself was not used in UNRWA until the 2004, where there was a big conference in Geneva where they actually did this statement that improving the daily life of refugees do not jeopardize the right of return. And from here, our project born, but it is still very much struggling with the official discourse. For example, if you would go to any refugee camp and you would ask them why you are building 6 floors institution. In Dheisheh camp, let's take Dheisheh as an example, there is 20 NGOs in 1 kilometer square in Dheisheh camp. And whenever you go there and ask them why you are building 66 floors of institution, the first reaction would be, I will destroy everything and go back home. As if you are asked as a refugee to erase 60 years of achievement, 60 years of exile, 60 years of social network, 60 years of life in order to return back home. And so far, the official discourse among Palestinian leaders of the refugees, among all the other stakeholders that works with refugees, is that in order to return back home and in order to achieve the right of return, we have absolutely to erase 60 years of exile. And actually, working with them, we can see how much proud they are about what they achieved so far. They are quite proud about what they managed to do in their camps, but still they would act as if they are ashamed out of what they managed to build. And we feel that there is quite gap between what refugees manage to do and how is the official way we are as Palestinians in somehow speaking about the struggle of refugees and speaking about the right of return. And we feel that in some way, and this is why we call it campus in camps, because as if there is a big gap between the Palestinian thinking, the Palestinian vision, the Palestinian, I don't want to use even the word academia because I can see Munir looking at me very, but in somehow the Palestinian thinkers, or us as Palestinians in particular, I don't think that the thinkers would stay only in the university, don't understand me wrong. I believe that there is a lot that we could exchange among each other. There is a lot that we could learn from refugees, and there is a lot that refugees could learn from us, because then what I want also to explain that this is a project that comes out of refugees. It's not a project that we feel as Camp Improvement Program or as UNRWA or as GIZ, that it is something that we did several meetings in several camps in the south of the West Bank, and one of the main things that they would tell you, and they would tell you very confident, is that we want to find new ways in order to narrate our 60 years of exile and to combine it with the right of return. And we are ourselves very bored about the way that we represent ourselves. It's 60 years that we are representing the key. It's 60 years that we are representing the document of our homes. It's 60 years that we are writing all the names of the villages on the walls. We managed in Aida camp to build the biggest key of the world, actually. It's in Guinness book already. And what next? How could we also not being trapped into the same narration since 60 years, because as people we managed to go much forward. So how could we represent what we achieved so far? Of course, I'm not saying that we will lose all this, all this historical elements that we all the time express for the Palestinian history, but in the same time, how we could manage to create also new visions that could represent what refugees are right now in after 60 years of exile. And I'm all the time saying, as Camp Improvement Program, and especially this in the West Bank, we have the struggle and the pleasure to work with a very strong community. It's not anymore, we are not there and speaking about community empowerment, community. I think that they are even much powerful than us, because if they want to close all the UNRWA offices in 1 second, they will close all UNRWA offices and they will not even permit UNRWA to work in somehow. So we are really working with a very powerful community. They already know what they want, but what they need really from us and from many other people to understand how they would, together with many of us, create new narrations in the camp and express what they are really doing. Because it's really rare sometimes that it happens that you have people that manage to do much, much, much more than what was written about them in a kind of academic or knowledge way. I think that refugees manage to do many things. They are really way behind what we manage to understand of what they manage to do. And this is why we think that the combination between campus and camps would be helpful for both, would be helpful to try to read in different ways, and this is what we want to discuss with you. Try to read what is really happening inside the camps, what is the mother doing in the camp, what's the chicken doing in the camp, as Munir would be. I would love him also to tell us the story of the chicken and what is really happening. I think that he could explain it really perfectly. What we would like to look at is what is really happening in the camp and how we could narrate it in our own way. And this is actually in a very poor words, what is campus in camps right now, or at least where we are right now for this project, and why we think, and again I would repeat, it's already 5 years that we are discussing with refugees about what are the main projects that they would like to take ahead, and it is the first time that we are meeting with the other part. It's not, if you feel that there are refugees are not around us, that's not because we did not consulted with them. They were the first decided the project, and then here is the first preparatory roundtable with the other part that would be working with refugees, and then we will prepare the ways in order to interact. But we would like to first discuss how we see ourselves as another part that where we could be part of this project and where we could interact with such rich environment.